Real Talk Baseball and Calls Baseball. With me as always is Ernie Orange and our longtime lost friend Will Power. He has his show for sure, but he's on here with us today. We're talking baseball, we're talking free agents, we're talking contracts, we're talking Seager and Bregman, we're talking the world champions. I was going to say Tigers. Why did I say Tiger? I think I'm talking about bias. The champions, the Texas Rangers for sure. But before we start our show, I want to go ahead and ask you guys, how are you guys doing? And we'll go start with Will Power. How's it going, Will?
Oh, I'm great, man. I'm glad to be on the show with you guys, talking some baseball. It's been a little while since I was able to talk baseball, and with you guys, not just with you guys, but also, with viewers and listeners, whoever's listening right now. I get to talk baseball a little bit at work once in a while, but because of my new position, like I'm so busy all the time, I don't really get a chance to talk too much. So glad to be on here talking baseball with you guys.
Yeah, man. Ernie, how's it going, dude?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Just like Will said, excited to be back, man. I know it's the off season. We will miss baseball for another 3-4 months, but hey, man, there's still a lot of news going on. We got the MLB Free Agency, like you mentioned, and can't mention the new managers that have just joined their new teams today. So a lot of exciting news for baseball still going forward.
That's true, man. And you know what? There's a one that surprised me, but we'll get into it a little bit before. Let's get started with Seager and Bregman. That one's pretty hot topic out there. Once the Texas Rangers won the World Series, they had their parade, and I'm pretty sure you guys already seen that video. But if you haven't seen it, go to our Instagram, go to our YouTube, go to whatever platform we have. It's on there. You'll get to see what he says, but it's pretty cool, man. I think a lot of people can have their own interpretation of what happened there, what's going on there, and I have my own, of course, but I want to hear you guys. Ernie, what do you think that Corey Seager was saying when he repeated what Bregman said about the Astros winning the division, and now Seager saying, they won the World Series, and they say who. You said what he said.
Oh,
go ahead, man.
Yeah, exactly. So, Seager is the new man. He is like the leader of the Texas Rangers. He is a heart and soul of this Ranger team, his second-time MVP. And he was excited to get vengeance on the Astros back in the ALCS. And now winning his second World Series MVP, this guy is up there now. Bregman doesn't stand a chance next to him. And, Bregman, yes, he has won 2 World Series, but the guy has not won an MVP. And as we all know, the Astros cheated. So this is a new rivalry here in Texas. We got Texas Rangers against the Houston Astros, some crosstown rivals that now are battling it out. You see the fans hating each other. And it's great for baseball that this rivalry has formed. And with Corey Seager being there now as the face of the Rangers, it's great for baseball. And I'm happy that he made that end of parade, because now we get to see some exciting baseball going forward.
That's true, man. That's true. Go ahead, Will.
I love what Seager said, but I kind of dislike it just a little bit, because I feel like this is going to take some heat away from the 2017 cheating scandal. People are going to be talking about this, but the cheating scandal is going to be kind of like left behind. But I mean, it was going to happen eventually anyway, But my initial thought is that Bregman has always kind of been like that cocky SOB, ever since his rookie year. He's always been like that. He's kind of been like a mirror image of Correa, where he knows he's a badass in the infield with the glove and the arm, and then he also has the bat to right next to him. So I think I remember 2020 being the year where Alex Bregman just kind of like not really talking to the media anymore. We've seen videos of him saying like, oh well, I'm going to leave that up to the commissioner, or I don't really have anything to say about that. Or, he just stayed quiet a lot. It was really Correa that was the one that was talking most of the time, during that scandal. And we didn't see really any kind of egging on or cockiness from Bregman until the Astros won the division in 2023, because everyone thought that they were going to be out. Everyone thought the Rangers were going to win because they were just on this crazy hot streak in the beginning of the year, slowed down a little bit. And then it was like between the Astros and the Rangers towards the end of the season, Astros ended up pulling it off. But Bregman, I saw him and he thought that he got the last laugh, with his comment right after they won the division when they're popping bottles in the locker room. But Corey Seager said it all, man. Corey Seager is the one that had the last laugh. He had the last word, you know. And so he's the one that's wearing the pants in this relationship, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh my!
Honestly, man. Honestly, next season is going to be so exciting watching these two teams battle it out, because the Astros right now are not the same that they were in 2017, 2018. You know, there's a lot of players that have moved on since then. And were they cheating in 2018, 2019? No one knows. Everyone only knows about 2017. So if we saw the real Astros this season, yes, they're very good still. 100 wins, you know, still have some great players out there, some young players, some vets. They actually look better to me on paper than they did back in 2017, 2018. But you know, without those trash cans banging, it's a little hard to get those extra wins. I'm pretty sure you guys know this, but they actually lost every single home game in the ALCS. Yeah. I think you guys actually mentioned that the last time on your show when you guys were talking about it. So that just shows you right there, you know, that the Astros in 2017 and 2018, they won so many home games, you know, and we know exactly why. And then now, without the help of trash cans, they're not winning at home anymore.
Oh man, you had to mention the trash cans, huh?
I had to, man. I had to. It's been a long time. We always say, like, whenever it kind of gets brought up, we're always like, oh, we've already talked enough about this. But man, it's back there in the mix now. So why not talk about it before everyone forgets about it?
Dude, there was a comment on Instagram, and they were saying that, oh, you guys should get over it, because they were saying that, oh, you must be a Rangers fan and this and that. And I'm like, he was saying how the Rangers barely got their first championship. The Astros just got their first championship too. If you really think about it, in 2022, not 2017, where I think every MLB fan is aligned to saying, hey, they need to strip that championship away from them, because they did not win it square, you know, fair and square. So what I said was, dude, you know, you're proud of your team cheating in 2017? Like, he came back and said, no, I'm not proud of it, but it is a championship. No, man, it's not. You shouldn't be proud of your team. If my team was cheating, dude, I would be like, you know what? No, it doesn't count. I'm going to be honest and say, you know what? No, they should strip it away. The commissioner should do that. But what I feel what Seager did, you know, with his comment, was more referring to when he was a Dodger and they took that championship away from him. So that's why he clapped back at Bregman and said what he said, you know. So it's good for baseball. It's good for rivalry. Ernie, you hit it on the ball. Like, honestly, this is going to be a great rivalry for the West, you know, AL West. I honestly think it's just going to, you know, create some good tensions there, because we saw Dallas Garcia and Maldonado getting into it when they got hit in the arm, right? And they were going at it, and they were saying, no, we didn't hit you intentionally. Like, dude, it did look intentionally. He hit a bomb, and then very next at bat, you hit me. Like, come on. So it's going to be a back and forward type of thing. It's going to be fun. You know, tell me, what do you guys think about that rivalry? That rivalry is going to spark some stuff in the AL West. Ernie, you're an Angels fan. Do you see that type of rivalry like in any other team? You know, like we do with the Giants, the Dodgers-Giants rivalry. You see that one, right? But did you see it before this? Did you see anything in the AL West that was kind of like that?
No, you know, since the Astros are a fairly new team to the AL West, you guys got to recall that they were in the National League in the past. You know, it had been kind of quiet. The Astros were a weak team coming into the American League. And now going forward, you know, the Astros winning those two championships, one cheating, obviously. But it is definitely a new rivalry. You know, with the Rangers winning now in Arlington out there, they're proud to be rocking those Ranger jerseys out there in Texas. You know, you got the ex-president George Bush being a super fan of the Rangers. You know, they were this close in 2010, 2011. So it's definitely a rivalry. And who knows who's going to manage this Astros team going forward? And that's the main question. And who can they keep the Astros winning? That's the main question. Whoever comes to manage that team.
And that's crazy, since we're talking about the Astros. They're still in the hunt to finding a manager in that side. They look like they're interviewing some people, but I haven't seen any clear names on who they're going to go after. So, I mean, we did see that they signed 3 managers today. I mean, I don't know if you guys want to go ahead and talk about it already. You guys already said your piece about the Astros and Rangers. We're good to move.
Yeah,
All right,
I
let's talk
think
about
so. Let's move on. I don't want to talk about the Rangers. You know, they didn't win, so
yeah,
let's not talk about them.
yeah, whatever. All right, let's go. Let's go into the managers, man. There's 3 signings today, and the one that really like kind of stunned me was the Craig Counsell and David Ross getting fired from the Cubs. So that one kind of was a little. It sneaked up on me. I'll say that it sneaked up on me. Like I don't know what you guys think, but I think that one was a kind of crazy one. I thought David Ross had a good record out in Chicago. He had a good fitting there in Chicago, but I guess they want more out of their manager. And Craig Counsell is the right guy. I feel for the Cubs since the Brewers didn't do much with him, and he is up for manager of the year. Just to mention that. But what do you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally shocker for the MLB world today. David Ross getting fired on his day off. It was definitely a shocker. David Ross was a guy that was a well-liked guy in the Cubs organization. He replaced Joe Madden. He had just retired from the Cubs, decided to manage with no experience, but he still managed to do a great job, like you said, Carlos. He still won the NL Central, and he was this close to making it to the wild card this season with around 82 wins this season, 83. He was right there in the mix to the final day of the season, and it's just a big shocker today. I think the Cubs just made a desperate move, and they tried to get Craig Counsell. They saw he was a heavily favored for the Mets team. But the main shocker today, guys, was that he got paid $40 million contract for 5 years, the highest paid manager going forward. The highest manager paid this year was going to be Bob Melvin with $4.5 million. And you tell me Craig Counsell is going to get almost paid double than that? This guy only made $20 million in his whole career as a player, and you're telling me he's going to make double that as a manager going forward.
Dang, that's crazy, dude. That's amazing. I like that.
But it's great for managers. It's time for them to get paid. I mean, they deserve the money. They have a hard job.
I agree.
Sometimes, because I feel like if you're handed the Braves, you're going to do well. Because that lineup and that pitching rotation is just stacked. So I really think that any manager can go in there and win, close to 100 games. Now, on the flip side of that, you got the Brewers, where Craig Counsell, like, he's had a pretty successful run in the past 5 years or whatever it was that he's been manager for the Brewers, and he has molded guys like Corbin Burns, guys that kind of came up under his managerial duties, and there were other guys like Brandon Woodruff that has been around for a little while longer, but Freddie Peralta is another one, and that's actually what surprises me, that he would actually go to the Cubs, because now he's going to be having to face his old team a lot more, because they're in the same division. So now, instead of having Brandon Woodruff and Corbin Burns and Freddie Peralta in your corner, you're going to be facing these guys with not much pitching. Justin Steele, who was great this season, but he was never pitched like that before. And Kyle Hendricks, a guy that's just over the hill. That I don't know. They must have plans for the future if they're spending this much money on a manager. They've got to be thinking about making a splash, whether it's free agency or trades, whatever the case may be. They, like you guys said, they kind of almost squeaked into the playoffs this season, and that's with David Ross, who doesn't really have much managerial experience. Great catcher. He was the catcher with the Cubs when they won the World Series back in 2016, I think it was. Yes. And because of that, I think it was really because of that. Because I feel like he was the leader of the team in 2016. He was the backbone of the team, and they saw that, and they thought that maybe that would translate to managerial duties. And I think it did a little bit. I feel like it got his feet wet in a managerial spot, and maybe he'll get signed by one of these other teams that need a manager. But good for Craig Counsell. I feel like that type of money, it's not just about the money, it's about what the money says. I think I got that from Moneyball, actually. And it's showing the value that the Cubs organization sees in a manager like Craig Counsell. And I'm wondering if this is like the start of something new, because we saw when Bryce Harper got signed, biggest contract ever in MLB history, and And all of a sudden, all these other players started getting $300 million contracts as well. So is this the beginning, of managers actually getting paid a lot more than they have been in the past? What about the guys that are current managers that have contracts? Are they going to be able to get, like, managers don't have arbitration or anything like that. So, whatever their contract is what they're going to get. But at the end of their run as a manager, usually managers don't stick around for more than 2 or 3 years. So at the end of 2 or 3 years, are the $10 million contracts per year, or whatever it is, $40 million contracts, are those going to become like new normal for managers? I think that's a conversation we had. Maybe in a couple of weeks from now, when other teams actually go and sign all these managers.
That's true, because there's still 4 teams that still need a manager, and those 4 teams we'll talk about a little bit after we talked about Carlos Mendoza signing with the Mets. And this guy, I think he's the right guy to go to the Mets, because they needed someone that can deal with us. When you're in New York, you need to deal with the press, you need to deal with all these adversities, because it's a big city, it's a big market. It's not a small market. Of course, he doesn't have a lot of managerial experience. He has coaching experience. He was coaching with the Yankees, if you guys didn't know that. And he is taking on the managerial spot for the Mets. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be someone like Dave Kepler maybe going out there to help him out, because Dave Kepler, remember, they let him go from the Giants. They got their man out there, and Bob Melvin. You have David Ross possibly, can be that backup coach for him in the Mets. So you need someone that's going to back him up, because he's his first time managing a team, but because he's in the big market, and he was in the big market with the Yankees and as a coach, I think it's a really, real good signing for the Mets. I can't wait to see what they're going to do. They have a lot of money. They're going to be able to spend, see if they're going to go after Ohtani. I know they are, and they're going to go after Soto, try to see if they can trade for him, or, maybe they'll do the opposite. They'll probably trade away Pete Alonso, which a lot of people think that's not going to happen because he wants to stay there. But remember last year, Pete Alonso wasn't happy being at the Mets after the Mets started, dismantling the whole team. He went and asked the front office, what's going to happen? When are we going to get this team going? So moving with this manager, I feel that this manager is going to, he has no experience, but because he's been in that big market, I think he's going to know how to handle himself in the Mets. So I don't know. We have one other guy. Which one? I'm blanking out right here, Ernie. Sorry.
Carlos Mendoza, right, was a great hire. But the other hire for today was Stephen Vogt for the Guardians.
Stephen Vogt.
Stephen Vogt, a 2-time All-Star catcher, has no managerial experience either, but he's a well-liked guy in the MLB, a guy that they picked his brain and he knows his baseball. And he will be another prime example of an ex-player being a catcher, being a manager. And it just turns out catchers are really good at managing the game. They see the game in a different way than most other position players do. And I think it's the right hire. It's a guy that's low profile, a guy that's done good things for the game of baseball. And I think he's excited to be getting the first managerial experience of his career.
Yeah, and he's going to be with the Guardians in that one, so that's going to be amazing, dude. So the 4 teams that are still looking for managers are the Houston Astros, the Anaheim Angels of what is it? The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Did I say that right? The Brewers.
Named so much in the last 20 years.
I think it's just LA Angels now. Los Angeles Angels.
Okay. I don't know, man. I don't know. I just want to get it right, because the Guardians changed their name, and I just want to make sure I get it right all the time. And then you have the Brewers, and then you have the San Diego Padres. So we'll see what happens. And what you just said, Will, is this going to be a new turning point for managers to get paid a lot more than what they did before? You got to look into the organizations, what they're doing now. The manager is not just for the sole team up in the big leagues. You're talking about minor leagues. You're talking about, instructional league. You're talking about scouts. Managers take care of all that. Like, we don't get to see that stuff either. Whatever he says, like, hey, make them feel comfortable, make them feel like they're at home. That comes from the manager. And I'm speaking about Dave Roberts, because I get to see behind the scenes with this guy, and he gets to talk to his players and go all the way to the minor leagues and talk to the players down there and say, be yourself. We want you to be yourself. We want you to, the way you played, wherever you're coming from. That's what we want. That's how we signed you. So it comes from the top. And yeah, maybe, it is going to be the new trend where they start signing these managers for more money. But is there any other manager that you guys think that's going to get the job out there? Like, I don't see anybody, coming back from retirement. We had Bruce Bochy coming last year, and then he won the World Series this year. He's an old dog. He's a gut feeling type guy. He's not about cybermetrics. I don't see a manager out there like that that's going to do that. Dusty Baker just retired, so maybe Mike Scioscia, is he available?
Yeah, there's no word about Mike Scioscia yet, which it would be a great hire if you ask me. A guy that knows the game really well. But the only name out there for the Angels organization that they brought out is Buck Showalter. I'm not a big fan of him. I know he has a lot of experience. He just hasn't won in the big games, and that's where I think the Angels need a manager that can win. But other than that, I think they're heading with the direction of either Torrey Hunter, a guy that has a positivity, well-liked player, and I think he just gets really well. He gets along really well with Artie Moreno, and I think he would be a great hire for the Angels organization.
Oh yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's Artie Moreno's one of the first signings. I think, right, when he first bought the team. Yeah, so I mean, of course, they better have a good relationship. I would.
All he did was bring a winning culture to the Angels.
Yeah, he was good. If he does that, and it's going to be his first time doing it, why not have him? You have other coaches, from the what is it called, the World Classic. You have Benji Hill. That you heard that he might get a managerial spot with the Padres now. I was hearing the Angels for a little bit, and now the rumors are, more for the Padres. And then you have the other guys that are in the minor leagues that might get, that role, get a position there with the Padres. So we'll see what happens as they moves along. But the Padres are in kind of a big trouble, I feel like, everybody heard about what they had to do. They had to go get a loan so they can go ahead and pay their players and, had all their financial strength.
Now they're going to have to get a bigger loan to be able to sign a manager.
Oh, man. And what's crazy? Dude, but what's crazy is that they got that loan to, they went all out. They went all out and said, you know what? We're going to win the World Series, and this is what I'm betting on. And they put other chips in there, and it didn't pan out. And now he's like Frank McCourt, not knowing how to pay their players, how to pay for the parking, how to pay for the stadium, how to pay for their employees. So that's going to be a problem. So is it a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's a good thing for the Padre fans, knowing that this happened, because now they're going to have to be able to sell the team. They're going to start from scratch again, of course, but they're going to sell the team, and now they're going to be able to get a millionaire or billionaire out there to get players. But, since we're talking about the Padres, do you guys think Soto's going to get traded this offseason? And it's a lot of speculation out there that the Yankees might be with that team to go ahead and get that guy over there to New York.
If you're the Yankees manager, you have to make that call. You need to go get a lefty in the middle of your lineup like Juan Soto to provide some support for Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge just cannot do everything in that lineup. Like we said all season, they were just heavily dependent on Judge, and they need another power hitter like Soto that could provide some spark for that offense.
Yeah. Will.
And not just the power, but dude, that guy gets on base with the likes of like Bryce Harper, 400 OBP every single season. And when you match that with his, he's only 25 years old, and he's not even in the prime of his career yet. 2 years from now, he's going to hit his man strength, and those 25 home runs that he's hitting every year, it's going to be closer to 30 to 35. So imagine that type of player in any lineup, that's like I personally think that that Juan Soto could actually win a couple MVPs, and I think if he just increases that pop just a little bit, which I think is just in the coming years, I think we could actually see that, whether it's AL or NL, and it's going to be a little harder being in the same division as Ohtani. If Ohtani goes to the National League, except for 2024, because he's only going to be able to hit, but in the future, if he's hitting and pitching and he's still playing at the same caliber that he has been playing for the past couple seasons, it's really going to be hard for anyone to get MVP over that guy, because he, pitches and hits. But, if Ohtani signs with a National League team, Dodgers probably, that's kind of what seems to be the buzz. And then if Juan Soto ends up going to the American League and gets to the Yankees or whatever team he goes to, that's opportunity for him to be able to get MVP. Then he'll have to face against guys like Corey Seager, Aaron Judge again, but it's going to level the playing field a little bit more because you don't have that two-way player in the American League anymore.
Well, there's another team that came out saying, or not another team, another player. Acuna came out saying that he wouldn't mind having Soto out with the Braves. Imagine he goes with the Braves, and the Braves are already stacked team. That team is already like, you don't need nothing else. You're good. You're good for the next 4 or 5 years because that team signed a low contract for, every player on that team signed a low contract, and the Braves just knew how to do it. But Acuna said, I wouldn't mind having Soto out there. And, you need to make your players happy. And if they say something like along the lines, hey, I want this player to come, I want this coach to come, they're trying to make your superstar happy. So that might happen. If it happens, it's going to be crazy, him going to the Braves. But if the Padres do it, they should, consider it because they need to get their farm system back up to where it was before they started making all these trades to try to, win the World Series, and they didn't even make playoffs this 2023. But back to what you were saying, Will, with Ohtani. Ohtani surprisingly came out saying that he might, or I don't know if it's true. You guys let me know if it's true or not. But his top team right now is the Rangers. Did you guys see that?
Yes, that was the main shocker of the day. I'm like, did you really go to Texas?
Yeah.
Texas was never mentioned as a team he would have wanted to go, but I know since they just won the championship, hey, maybe he would want to pitch there. They do have already pretty strong pitching out there with Eovaldi, DeGrom coming back next year. He wouldn't really have to focus too much on pitching. He already knows the division really well as well, and he probably likes Arlington. Who knows? Yeah. That would be a great signing for the Rangers, and I know Bruce Bochy would take him with open arms, and take him under his wing and have him as 40 home run season for next year as a DH.
40, I think he'll hit 50, man. He's not going to be concentrated on pitching. But okay, Will, you got shocked. You didn't know about that one?
I didn't see that one. No.
Okay. So yeah, dude. So he has 3 teams he prefers. It was the Texas Rangers, the San Francisco Giants, and the last ones were the Dodgers. But out of those 3, the Dodgers have more money to be able to move things around. Remember, the Texas Rangers, they have high contracts over there already. If they go after Ohtani, that's the only player they're going to get. So for them, it's more likely to pass on that and say, okay, I'll go ahead and get other role players for my team than just get one and then have to wait for him to come back and pitch in 2025. For the Dodgers, the other hand, they have money to go ahead and get him, wait for him for 2025, and still sign like a Blake Snell and a top free agent out there. And then for the Giants, they have money too, but they have a lot to do. They still need to go ahead and get other players to fill those positions. They have Bob Melvin there. He got that money ball, because he came from the A's. He didn't do it over there in the Padres. So he's with the Giants now. He's going to be able to tell them, hey, I want this, I want that, and let's move forward. But that money ball in him is what's kind of holding back from getting players, I feel. Maybe JD Martinez will be one of those guys that go over there, role players like that. But that was kind of a shocker when he said for the Texas Rangers. And what you just said, Ernie, that he knows the division already, it wouldn't hurt staying in the same division and now just going with a team that had just won the World Series and is hungry to win another one because they want to match up to the Astros for sure because they don't just want to stay in that one World Series championship. Yes. But we'll see, dude. We'll see what happens with Ohtani. And then, dude, do you guys think that's going to happen before Thanksgiving or it's going to go all the way till Christmas, or when is this going to happen?
I think Ohtani is personally going to focus on just the off season right now and not even worry about his contract until after the new year. I think that's actually the smarter way to do it in my eyes when it comes to money, because the longer you wait, the more money is going to be thrown at you. If someone offers him $500 million for a 10, 11-year contract, whatever it is, he's going to sit on it and wait. And then other teams are going to be like, oh, dang, he wants more. How much more can we throw at him? It's going to be that bidding war like we saw with Harper. We haven't seen it since Harper. A lot of players last season, they signed super early. It was like by Christmas, most of the most of the free agents had already signed. I think it's going to be a little bit different this year.
Yeah, it could be. And then who else is a free agent that you want to talk about? I know you want to talk about Justin Turner. You're the one that told me like, oh yeah, Justin Turner could be a Dodger. He can play second base, and you give me the movements, man. You send me on the text message. Go ahead and say it here, dude. I liked it.
So, I personally think that Justin Turner would be a great fit, a 1-year deal with the Dodgers, back with his not original team, but the team that actually made him a star, moving to third base and having Max Muncy play second base, because second base has been tied up by Mookie Betts, but Mookie Betts can move back to right field. You have your Gold Glove back in right field, and you have a really good second base defender in Max Muncy. And then Muncy made so many errors at third base, whether it was throwing or fielding or whatever. And Justin Turner is not the best third baseman, but he's definitely way better than Muncy is at third base. So I would love to see, Turner, Lux, Muncy, Freeman. That's a freaking awesome infield right now. I feel like what we saw Lux play second base, and he had his missteps here and there. But when he shifted back over to shortstop after Corey Seager had left, we saw him shine at shortstop, dude. Like, he had a lot of defensive highlights that it's just his natural position. And if you saw how excited he was to know that he was going to be the starting shortstop for the Los Angeles Dodgers in 2023, and then the heartbreak that you could see in his interview after he got hurt, I think that, going forward, Gavin Lux is going to be potentially a top defensive shortstop for the Dodgers.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna throw you this one, man. Tim Anderson just didn't get an offer from the White Sox now, or he declined his option to stay there, and he's in the open market right now. He's a shortstop. I know a lot of people don't like him because of his attitude. He almost got knocked. Well, he did get knocked out in the season. We don't like that in LA.
That's okay, because that means ratings, whether it's good publicity or bad publicity, as long as it's not like Trevor Bauer publicity, that it's good publicity. So having him getting knocked out, even though it's a little embarrassing, it puts a spotlight on whatever team he's playing for. It put a spotlight on the White Sox. It put a spotlight on the Guardians, and that situation itself, and on both of those players. I don't like Tim Anderson because he only plays half the season or even less than that, because the dude's just always getting hurt, and you can't have that as a starting shortstop or if he moves over to second or whatever it is, wherever he plays in the infield. It's like you need someone to play at least 120 games for you to actually make it worth it. And if this guy's only playing 60 to 70 games in a season and someone's going to pay him $20 million a year, there's no way he's worth that much.
After this season, I don't think he even batted over the Mendoza batting average. I believe he was under it. I think he wasn't that good, dude. I think he was really distracted. There was a lot of stuff going with the White Sox. It would look like they were distracted by the new manager. I guess the manager was too relaxed and didn't tell them anything. They were, doing whatever they wanted to do. And that's why Tim Anderson, was frustrated, and he didn't do so well like everybody thought. He played in the World Classic. He did play second base, there. So he played with Trey Turner, so maybe they'll match up again. But they already have a person in Philly. But we'll see what happens with Tim Anderson. That's another big name. Another big name out there is you're talking about Blake Snell. I mentioned them a little bit earlier. And you're talking about Josh Hader, dude. Josh Hader is going to be a big signing for whoever gets him this year. It looks like the Padres did offer their extended qualifying offers, right? So it looks like they're going to be able to see if they can keep him. But honestly, for Blake Snell, I don't think he's going to take it. And Josh Hader is not going to take it either. They're going to hit free agency. Not unless they go and say, you know what, whatever the manager, if they hire the manager before they leave, because they got to the 14th of November to say yes, they're going to stay, or they can decline it now, but they got up to the 14th of November to do so. But that's where the managerial spots for all these teams need to hurry up and try to get their person in there, because you want to have your players that are top level and staying in those teams. And that's what a lot of organizations are trying to do right now. You have those 4 teams like the Astros, like I said, the Angels, the Brewers, and I'm forgetting one team. Who was the other team? Damn. Is it not the
Angels,
Giants?
Astros, Brewers, and Padres.
Padres. There we go. Got it. So yeah, those are the 4 teams. So they need to hurry up and get and do what they need to do. But is there any other players that you guys want to talk about that you guys know that are going to sign with a team and just waiting to see what's going to happen? I know everybody's waiting on Otani, dude. Everybody's waiting on Otani. I think once Otani signs, I think we will get on and talk about it because it's going to be especially if it's for the Dodgers or Ernie, you're an Angels fan. If he goes back to the Angels, that'll be a big surprise too because no one will see that coming. The Angels looks like they're gonna even probably trade away Trout. But give me some insight on that. Do you feel like they're gonna trade Trout?
No, it's not going to happen. The Angels want to continue selling tickets and putting seats in the stands. So I think they're not trading Trout, and they're keep trying to make an offer for Otani. They threw a qualifying offer of $20 million. They are aware that Otani definitely wants a bigger contract, but they know he's going to reject it, and they're going to try to work a contract with him. I know they don't have as much money as the Dodgers do and the Giants, but they're going to throw something in the table. But knowing that once Otani signs, it's going to open up the market for every other player, especially these Japanese stars that are coming from Japan. We have the Yamamoto guy, the Sasaki, the main guy that pitched for the WBC for Japan. You got players like that also going to want to get paid because they are bringing that Japanese stardom from Japan, and they have capabilities to be even better than Shohei Otani. So that's going to be exciting to see.
Yeah, and Will, what are you hearing about Trout out there? Is there anything that the Phils might try to push to get Trout out to Philadelphia?
Just from fans, just from people like kind of in the general area, like, oh, we missed out on Trout when he was a free agent, but I think he's going to get traded. It's more wishful thinking, but
they want it to happen though, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
he's a hometown boy over here. He's from Jersey, and he has Jets season tickets.
Eagles.
I'm sorry, Eagles season tickets, and he's a Philly boy.
Yeah.
Of course, all the fans want him over here, but I'm in agreement with Ernie. I don't think that the Angels will ever let him go. He has a full no trade clause, so he could bar any trade that they try to do. I think the only place that he would actually go to is Philly because that's hometown. But I don't think that the Phillies really have anything that they can trade. Like they depleted their farm system when they went out for JT Realmuto, a couple other trades that they did. And it hasn't really worked out for them yet. But I don't know. I see some promising things in the future for the Phillies, but I don't see Mike Trout in a Phillies uniform.
Yeah, I kind of don't see it because I feel like he's more of a faithful guy. Like he's gonna stay there with the Angels. He's more of like I want to stay here and I want to prove and just have my whole career here. I don't see him as a guy like trying to get out of there. Unfortunately, like I feel like the Angels didn't or haven't given them the team to do so or to get to the next level. I'm one of those that want to see Mike Trout in the playoffs and get better stats than the one we already talked about where he went. It's a 1 for 11, 1 for 12 with that home run. That happened. But it's the thing is we need to wait and see what's going to happen, right? Once they get their manager, we're going to get to see, okay, does Mike Trout match as well with this manager that they get? Does this manager want to talk to Mike Trout because he's in the plans to, this is what we're going to do. It's going to take us 2 years to go and be championship level type baseball again. So all those things need to happen, but it needs to happen now before, Artie Moreno says, you know what, a good offer came from Mike Trout and it came from the Yankees, I'm going to go ahead and take it without having a manager. That's going to suck, for Angel fans and for anybody that's a Trout fan because it's going to – I mean, I kind of do see that happening to where, Artie Moreno might lose his mind and be like, you know what, I'm going to let him go and they don't have a manager. That would suck. But I would want him to stay in LA. I get to see him here, dude. He's not that far away, I got to see Otani and him together. So I'm not going to miss that out. So it's going to suck if it does happen. But I do have another guy I want to talk about. Is it
real,
Aaron?
real quick,
Yeah,
real
yeah,
quick
go for it.
about Otani. I honestly, I think that if Mike Trout does stay with the Angels, if he doesn't get traded, I think Otani leaving would be the best thing for him because that
You
means he
think
doesn't
so?
have to play the field too much anymore. He can DH most days, whereas Otani was locking up the DH spot every day he didn't pitch.
Yeah,
So having Mike Trout sit down and just hit, 4 or 5 days a week, that's gonna help him stay healthy. And that's been the biggest concern for Mike Trout for the past 3 or 4 seasons now is he just can't stay healthy. Whether it's a back thing or a leg thing or whatever it is, it's like he just consistently gets hurt every single season. And it's not small injuries. It's things that keep him out for a couple months at a time, and then he'll come back for a day. I think it was this year when he played, like he came back from injury, played a game, and then went back on the IL just the very next day. Got pulled out of that game. So I think the best thing for Mike Trout would be to just be in that DH role probably for the rest of his career. He's not that old. He's still in his young 30s, but just the track record and the history, the injury history, I think it'd just be better if all he does is just hit. He could be the next Edgar Martinez.
yeah. It sucks, man. His back injury is one of those injuries that they can't find a cure for, and you're kind of like thinking, okay, well, that maybe he can just stretch and do whatever he needs to do to feel better, but it's just not happening. Doesn't work that way. And maybe you're right. Him being the DH, letting Otani go so he can play that role. Maybe that's what they need. And if, like what you guys said with Torrey Hunter, he was an outfielder, dude, so he understands how much you need to be really, really good on your legs and your back because you need to go ahead and make those plays. And we've seen Trout chase that ball and get those home runs back. So, like, those were amazing plays.
As a fan, I don't want him as a DH. Why? Because he makes all these great plays.
Yeah.
He robs a lot of home runs. He saves runs. He saves so many.
He does that on a monthly basis. This guy does everything great defensively. I know his back keeps giving out, but it's something he can't control. Everything he tries to possibly come back, but unfortunately, here and there, an injury will pop up. And it's unfortunate. Every player does go through some injuries like that. And unfortunately, it's just one of those past 4 years. He just hasn't been lucky. And he wants to win and he wants to play better. But the real answer to solve all these Angels problems is honestly pitching. We need a guy that can focus really well on pitching, just like Mike Scioscia did. Mike Scioscia was a guy that knew how to pinpoint what players needed from his pitching staff and how to get the best from them. And that's what the Angels really need. I think offensively, the Angels will be okay with the young stars they got going on in their lineup. That guy Zach Neto, Logan O'Hoppe, they're on the right track. But it's pitching where we drastically always have, for the past decade, it has just been our biggest problem in that team.
Yeah. And dude, it's not just Angel fans talking about it. I think everybody that talks about the Angels, they're always saying, they need pitching, they need pitching, they need pitching. And they only get one pitcher, and they get a pitcher that's not even an ace like Tyler Anderson. And you're thinking like, wait, why did they go after just a number 3 guy? They should have went for a number 1 guy because Otani's going to only pitch every 6-7 days, right? So he's not going to give you all his starts. So you need to go get someone that's going to have a lot more starting potential. Like, is it Aaron Nola that's going to be a free agent from the Phillies, or who's the one that's going to be the free agent?
Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola, Blake Snell. Those are the top 2 pitching free agents, Aaron Nola and Blake Snell.
So there you go. So Aaron Nola, to me, he's not a number 1. I don't know. A lot of people might say, oh, yeah, he is a number 1. And I think we've talked about it in these shows that I've said, why is everybody hyping Aaron Nola up so much? Like he's a number.
He's a workhorse. He'll pitch 220 innings, 230 innings every single season, and he'll have 250 to 260 strikeouts to go along with it. So the production in that aspect, he's on the field a lot. But the problem is, to go along with that, he's going to have an ERA above 4. So he has a problem with the long ball. So I think that Aaron Nola would actually be a better fit in San Francisco, where the ball doesn't usually travel as far because of the wind. Sometimes it pushes it out, but a lot of times it'll push it back in. So San Francisco, a big pitcher's ballpark like that, I think that would actually be the best spot for Aaron Nola.
So you don't see him as a number 1, right? That's what you're saying too?
No, definitely not. He's a solid number 2 on a decent team. he's a number 3 on like a really good team, like a really good pitching staff. Like if he were to go, let's just say he gets signed by the Braves. You have Max Fried and you have Spencer Strider. So in that instance, I would say Nola's number 3.
Okay.
But on a lot of other teams that have, just the one ace, then he would be a number 2. I don't think that he would really walk onto any team and become an ace of most squads that he would actually want to be a part of.
Well, he fit good in Arizona because Arizona just went to the World Series and they're looking for one more pitcher there, and it could be a good fit.
And that's the thing, like Aaron Nola may not be the number 1 pitcher, but there's going to be a desperate team out there that's going to pay him number 1 ace money.
Type money.
And that's the thing. They're desperate. There's not a lot of great pitchers out there that have been healthy, but all these pitchers going out with Tommy John these days, you got to try to, like Will say, you got to try to find pitchers that can last 200 innings plus, and they're hard to find these days. So I know there's going to be a desperate team out there paying up for that guy.
And what about Blake Snell? Go ahead.
Did you guys hear about Brandon Woodruff? This is off topic. But Brandon Woodruff's actually going to miss the whole 2024 season.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He has they called it a perforated shoulder. So he has very, very small holes in his rotator cuff in his pitching shoulder. And they're saying that a lot of people were thinking that it was Tommy John at first, but it's a shoulder, not an elbow issue. And the little holes that are in his shoulder, they actually have to cut that out and reattach it. Yeah. Ooh. So this is not that. This is something that doesn't really happen too often. And the guy from the Braves, another pitcher, Kyle Wright, actually has the same exact issue, which is very weird that 2 pitchers have this issue in the same season. But both of those guys are actually going to miss the 2024 season.
Dang, that's good fantasy because that's what we're going to do first, fantasy baseball type thing when we start the season. We're going to do it probably in February, it looks like, Will.
Maybe even a little bit earlier than that, because I want to try to do a position preview of each position, and that's going to take at least like 8 or 9 weeks right there if you include like a relief pitcher. So probably 8 weeks. So at least 2 months before the season starts. So I'd say probably
hopefully all these people or all these players already signed with their teams, and it'll make it a lot easier. But if they're still free agents, you better still mention them because I'm gonna listen in on that because I need to win this next year.
It's been exciting, man. It's been 5 days since the season has finished, and it's just been a lot of exciting news lately with the MLB Free Agency, new managers. Now we're talking about who's going to be the MVP, Rookie of the Years, Manager of the Years. A lot of exciting news for baseball coming up, and I don't recall another season like this where it's just right after the World Series. All these moves are being made already. So, Will, sorry.
And there's also talk about baseball being back in the Olympics in 2028.
Yeah.
Well, they got rid of baseball at the last Summer Olympics, right? Was it like, I don't know, 3 years ago or whatever it was?
No, the last one was when the United States won the Olympics was, I believe, 2004 or 2002. One of those. I don't recall. That was when Tommy Lasorda coached that team. And after that, there was no more baseball. So it's coming back again. And I wonder if they're going to allow, I think we talked about it, but I wonder if they're going to allow professional baseball players to play it because, it's during the season. And if the other countries are going to be allowed to have their big stars there, why not the United States? So we'll see as it gets, closer to that. It's another 4 or 5 years from that. We still have another World Classic before the Olympics, which is going to be fun as well. So that's going to be cool. I wanted to ask you guys, do you guys feel that because of the ratings of the World Series, they were a little low and not the average baseball fan was watching it? If you're a real big time baseball fan, you were watching it. You were watching every inning and keeping up with it, right? But do you feel that all these free agents, all these awards, everything that's happening right now with baseball has to do with that? Or do you guys feel like it was going to happen anyway? As soon as World Series was over, the teams were going to go after their managers and they were going to start signing players and doing things that they needed to start doing. Anybody could go. That's fine.
I totally think Rob Manfred was on the works of this. I think he's a guy that wants attention now. He wants to compete with the MLB. I'm sorry, with the NFL, NBA, he scheduled the World Series in a way where there would be no game on Sunday. That way, he didn't have to compete with the NFL. This guy is, like I said, a businessman. He's trying his best way to get more fans involved, grow the game of baseball, making a lot of changes where a lot of old school fans are not liking. But he is definitely telling these teams, hey, man, you got to make the moves quick. This cannot be another free agency, because a couple of years ago, it was in March, and a lot of main star players had not been signed yet, and it was getting kind of concerning. It felt like a lot of GMs were not trying to make those big contracts anymore, and it was kind of becoming like, hey, man, we're not trying to play us, and we're just going to boycott the season, not really play. But it looks like these teams are desperate for pitching, and they're willing to pay now going forward, which is great for the game of baseball.
That's true. Will?
I don't know. I feel like baseball's been so unpredictable though since 2020, since the pandemic. Everything has kind of changed since then. And we've been talking about rule changes, since this season, past couple seasons, when they were just rumors, and the electronic strike zone coming in like 2025 or 2026 or whatever it is that they're talking about now. And I heard you guys talking about, Carlos, you were saying that like you don't even notice the pitch clock anymore. One of the rule changes that happened. But honestly, I was watching the game the other day, and I'm like, I kind of miss pitchers hitting. I miss being able to see, I saw someone lay down a bunt. I don't remember what it was. It was during the World Series, and I was just thinking, like, damn, when's the last time I saw a bunt? And right to my head, I'm thinking like, dang, we haven't seen pitchers hit all season, and I think it was they hit last season, right?
They did, yeah.
Well, it was 2020 that we had the universal DH, and then 2023. But yeah, man, I don't know. There's a lot of rule changes that are happening now that I get that they're trying to increase the ratings with now. I don't know. You try it, you see if it works. If it works, great. You stick with it. If it doesn't, you can always go back to old ways or figure out something different. But yeah, I kind of see it kind of going along with like the managerial part too, because there's a lot of younger managers that we're seeing now. Guys like Craig Counsell, that's a little bit on the younger side. Dusty Baker was a lot older, and he was old school. Bruce Bochy, he's a little bit older school, but other than that, like, how many like older managers are really out there? Buck Showalter got fired, there's a lot of those guys are on their way out, and the new school's coming in. So I think, I don't like to give Manfred praise because I really can't stand the guy in certain aspects of, how he runs the MLB, but I think he's on the right track. And I think he's doing a pretty decent job of, like how you said, Ernie said that he didn't schedule the World Series to be on a Sunday because he didn't want to compete with football. Like, that's smart planning, ahead of time. Stuff like that. I give him respect in that aspect, but I still think that there are other ways that you can get younger viewership, and I don't really like the way that they have. You talked about this last time on the podcast, Carlos, where the bye week in between for the National League winner and the like the top seeds, how they get like an extra few days off or whatever, and there's mixed reactions about who. Some people think that it really shouldn't matter. Like, if it's the best team, then they're going to go out there and play the best. But I feel like those people are the ones that have never really played baseball before, and don't understand that it takes momentum and hot streaks and cold streaks to be able to make it to the show, all the way to the end and be able to win the World Series. It's not just about having the best players on your team. Look at the Braves, look at the Dodgers, look at the, I don't know, whatever other teams out there have like these amazing sick ass lineups. It's having those 4 days off, 5 days off. It's really detrimental to these guys because of baseball's all about timing, and you can go any other sport. You can go basketball, football, whatever it is. It's really mostly athleticism,
Yep.
which is why a lot of guys can excel in basketball and football and they can't in baseball. And a lot of baseball players can excel in basketball and football because they have that athleticism, but they also have that extra something that you need for baseball, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's just kind of. I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and say that I don't want that strike zone to be robotic, because that human instinct, and I talked about it in a lot of shows already, that the human instinct still needs to be part of this game. This game is the only game that they wasn't timed. It doesn't have a time for the end game. You have to play 9 innings. You have to get 3 outs for the game to be over. It's the only sport you get to do that. Now, you do have the time between hitting and pitching and stuff like that now, but it's still the only game that you don't get time to finish the game. You don't have only 15 minutes each quarter, and then once those 15 minutes are over, you're done. That's it. You either go overtime, and then whoever has the most points wins the game. With baseball, you have to play all 9, and if it's not all 9, you go extra innings and you do all this stuff to win the game. I just feel like if the strike zone is going to get to where is robotic, I feel like this is where we're going to mess up the game a little bit. But look, I was one of the guys that said that I didn't like the time for the hitters and for the pitchers. And look at it now. Like I did say that I didn't even notice it anymore. The game is moving a lot faster. Back in the days in the 60s and 50s, that's how fast the games were. They were like 2 hours, they were done. It was a one-hit game, a one-run game, and that was it. They moved on, and that's what they want to happen now. They want to have people looking at the game and sitting down and talking about it. They want younger people. I mean, we're older generation. There's an older generation than us that still like the old way of baseball, but they're trying to get the younger kids now, and that's kind of hard when they're not looking at other things. Like when we were growing up, and we've said that a lot, Will, in our shows too. We said that we used to get up on Saturday mornings and used to watch the baseball show, and they would take away cartoons to put the baseball show because there's going to be a baseball game. Now we don't have that. You don't have that show that had the professional baseball players going out to the inner cities, giving out stuff, giving out a bat, throwing a ball, whatever it was. And you were like, oh, when are they going to come to my city? I want that to happen here. And that's the type of things that the kids remember, and maybe they should start looking at that. But I'm not marketing. That's their marketing. That's MLB. But it hopefully happens that way, and we get to keep the game that like it is now. But it needs to change. I mean, I guess it does. Whatever it is. You got any thoughts on that, Ernie?
No, you're totally right. I think the game changing is great for the game of baseball, the newer generation, obviously, and the attention span of a lot of kids these days is different than our time.
Yeah.
And we definitely need to keep them more involved in the game of baseball, and definitely try to reach out to the inner cities as well. Like you said, a lot of cities that don't get exposure to the game of baseball and the right equipment they need to play the game.
Exactly. All right, we're getting to that point. We talked a lot of baseball today. I could talk another hour, but we do have an hour restriction because we want to make it fun and try to get all the topics in. If we forgot to say something, now is the time to say it, and we'll start with Will here. Will, start it off.
I mean, I guess the last thing I gotta say is, with the pitch clock, how you said like you don't even notice it anymore. I feel like it's going to be the same thing with the electronic strike zone. Like in the beginning, you're going to hate it because, like you said, we're old school.
Yeah.
Like we've never seen it before. It's been done in the minor leagues, and they're trying to implement that into MLB in the coming seasons. But I really believe that it's just going to be one of those things where you don't even notice it anymore. And the things that we do notice now is you only get one timeout per at bat, and you can only try to pick off 2 times per an at bat. There's certain things that like, oh well, he just did the second one. Now we're going to see a stolen base. It's becoming a little bit predictable now. But even with this electronic strike zone, you're still keeping that unpredictability. And it's not like there's going to be an actual robot, at home plate, like a lot of people are thinking out there. It's going to be an earpiece in the umpire's ear, and there's going to be, either someone or like a digital reading on the other side of that earpiece telling him if it's a ball or a strike, and that's really going to be like the biggest thing, when it comes to the electronic strike zone. But other than that, I feel like we're just not even going to notice it. We're going to get used to it so quickly Whereas these other rules that I don't really agree with too much, I hate not only being able to throw over twice. It's
You
like
know,
it's giving them an open, to go ahead and steal, except for Tommy Pham, because we saw what happened to Tommy Pham. When was it Eovaldi when he looked back?
Body. Yeah.
And then on the third time he looked back twice, and then Tommy Pham was already like 10 feet away from the bag, ended up getting caught up. But
Yeah.
I think if it wasn't for the being able to only throw over twice, maybe that wouldn't have even happened.
That's true. That's true. Ernie.
You know what? I think I'm gonna like it. I want the strike zone now because I'm tired of all these players complaining to the umpire about a ball or a strike. And there's a lot of crucial calls that play a big pivotal role in the games based on a strike or a ball. And so with this electronic system, I think I'm gonna be a big fan for it. It's great.
Cool. We will have to wait and see for, what is it, 2025, I believe is when it's coming out.
25 or 26. I don't remember what they said, but you know
it's coming.
What I do
coming,
want to mention about the electronic strike zone is that a lot of catchers are probably going to hate this, because if you're a really good pitch framer, it doesn't matter if you're a good pitch framer or not, because if it's not in that box, then it's going to be called a ball. That a lot of these catchers know how to manipulate the ball. I don't know if you guys have seen like the new way that they're doing it. They're not holding their gloves here and trying to like move the ball up into like wherever the strike zone is, or wherever they want to make it like look like it's manipulating to. They're actually putting their glove on the ground. It is smashed on the ground, and then they bring it up to the ball to try to make it look like it's in the zone. And a lot of umpires, they think it's a strike, even though it's a ball. So you're kind of taking out that element of the electronic strike zone as well.
You know what's funny? I saw Pitching Ninja. He had a video on there how the art form for the catcher has changed so much. Where they start at the bottom, like you just said, and then they just pick up the strike zone. Even if the ball's a little low, they pick it up to the strike zone, and you're like, the umpire gets manipulated, and like they call it a strike. And then sometimes you see how low that strike is, and you're like, what the hell? Like, so the art form for a catcher is definitely going to change if the electronic strike zone, because it is coming. No matter what we say, it's still going to be there. And the other thing I wanted to say is that box that's on there on the TV, sometimes it's not right. And a lot of people think, oh, it was outside the strike zone. Like, no, the umpires has been doing this for a long time. We got to trust what he's done. We got to trust his judgment on those calls. There were strikes in the World Series that a lot of people were like, that's a strike. It was outside the box. But then there was balls, that were called strikes or called strikes in balls, whatever it was. It was and people were just kind of like, wait, that was a ball, that was a strike. And it's like, come on, man. You can't get on the umpire a lot, but with this strike zone, hopefully it fixes it. But at the same time, it's gonna be where I'm not gonna like it right now, and then maybe later I will, and I won't even notice it. Like you guys just
honestly, I think that rather than making the electronic strike zone, there should be some punishment for these umpires that just get too many bad calls. Not just like, hey, you missed a lot of bad calls. Like there needs to be like serious punishment, like banned from the playoffs for a season, or something like that. Or they have to start in AAA and then work their way back up, and or fines, or there has to be some kind of way where they can get control of these umpires making these crazy calls. And really, there's only one umpire that in all of MLB that really makes these bad calls on a daily basis, and that's Angel Hernandez. And everyone knows, because there's so many different videos and low lights and things about Angel Hernandez. Everyone cannot stand Angel Hernandez, Bryce Harper especially, but
they became friends though.
What's
they
that?
Follow each other on Instagram.
Do they really?
No, I'm just playing. I know they don't like Bryce Harper don't like him at all, but that's what it is. All right, guys, we reached that point. We went a little bit over. Thank you guys for coming in. If you guys haven't hit that like button or subscribe, go ahead and do that. There wasn't a lot of messages today, but I think it's because baseball's not on, and we're gonna try to get on once all these maybe for winter meetings. I think that's in November, late November. So we'll get on for that. But if you guys have any questions or anything, we are on Instagram, we are on TikTok, we are on here on YouTube. We'll answer right away. We're on X, and are we still on Threads? I don't know if Threads are still working.
Threads is not being used by anybody these days, but yeah,
Yeah.
we're still there.
All right, cool. And then we still on Facebook for sure. So if you guys can go ahead and do that, and then we have our email. Will, you want to give that email out?
Yeah, it's realtalkbaseball@yahoo.com.
Cool. You have fantasy questions, Will would answer that for sure. If you go ahead and send them, we all have knowledge of baseball and anything. So just let us know. We all said our piece and we're signing out. Hopefully this is not our last show in 2023. We'll probably log in one more time or two more times. But if we don't, we're all here at Real Talk Baseball. We're happy to give you the news for next year. We have the fantasy baseball coming in maybe January. That's going to start. We'll go ahead and advertise that on all our platforms, and we'll give you our top picks on those. And we're looking forward for 2024. And not only that, we're looking at all these free agencies and all these managers with who's going to sign where. That's going to be interesting. There's still a lot of baseball going on, so hopefully it's not the last show. All right. So if it is, I just want to say thank you guys, and we'll see you next show. From all of us here, Real Talk Baseball, On Colors Baseball, Ernie Orange, Will Power. Real Talk Baseball, signing out.